That's terrific. Thanks, Eric. Actually, I love this line that I heard recently, actually from our own Tony Weissman, who said that technology is no longer the domain of technologists, which I think is really important, and it kind of leads us in from that conversation into this conversation. We scripted it that way, so that's good. So it's also, technology is also blurring the lines between marketing and products and services. And great brands, many of them who are in this room, are putting utility right into the pockets of their customers to be with them in a mobile-enabled, always-on world. So to share how their brands have become software solutions for their customers, Chief Marketing Officer from eBay, Richelle Parham, Senior Vice President of Marketing from Delta, Bob Kupbens, and our moderator, Head of Mobile at Google, Jason Spero.
Thank you, Jordan. Thank you, Digitas. Thank you, eBay and Richelle and Delta and Bob. You know, in the open, it was about how brands have become software and how mobility is changing your relationship with your consumer. And when we were backstage, the stage manager, Elise, said something to you, Richelle, that I want to start with, which is that, I think she said, and I'm paraphrasing Elise, when she's not working, the only thing she does is eBay.
That's what she said.
Which must have felt good.
I love it.
I wanted to start maybe by saying that one of the places that it's obvious that mobility has changed behaviors is in the area of shopping. So can you start us off by talking a little about how you've gone through the process of thinking about shopping and mobility and connectivity and what that means for eBay?
So before I start, I just need to let you guys know that I have a throat thing. I've had a little cold, so if I sound scary sometimes, it's not because I want to be. It's because I have to be. So we're talking about mobile here. So as you guys know, eBay is one of the leaders in mobile commerce, and what we've been focused on is really driving the mobile experience. So we took a bet on mobile a few years ago, and we went hard and we bet hard. And so if you look at us in 2011, we did about $5 billion in mobile. In 2012, we gave guidance of $10 billion, and we did about $13 billion, and we're looking to exceed about $20 billion this year. So it's an incredible part of our business, and it's all about making sure that we're there when customers want to shop, making those moments of inspiration instantly shoppable. And so when you think about kind of what's happening on our platform today, we've had over 120 million downloads of our app. The app is now in 8 different languages, and it's a tremendous part of what we do. And so we try to think about mobile first and ensuring that we're creating an all-around experience for our customers.
All right, cool, and I think you have a video with you that illustrates some of that.
I do. So for the past 2 years, we've been really focused on ensuring that people understand the new eBay and what we're all about. And as part of that, last year, we did a consumer campaign that was all about driving consideration and changing perception of our brand. And one of the spots that we did is called Frenzy. And really everything that we did in all of these spots was all about mobile as a proof point of the new eBay. And so take a look at Frenzy.
We can run the video, please.
The 15 meeting looks like it's going to start a little late, but I really want to know that you're going to...
Okay, yep, that's fine. Sorry.
From the new to the hard to find. When it's on your mind, it's on eBay.
So I think it's something. Very illustrative of how you have made it clear to the mobile consumer that they have a partner in eBay. Bob, I want to turn for a minute and talk about Delta and about the thought process that you went through internally as you thought about how to extend Delta's relationship with the customer when they're on the go.
Yeah, well, we have a simple mission at Delta, which is to make flying better. And so we do that in lots of ways, but one of the ways is that we put these innovative digital tools in people's hands to give them an opportunity to remove anxiety from the travel experience or just make their trip that much better. It's funny, I used to work in retail, and no offense, because I think you guys are clearly getting it right, but we were always struggling to find the killer app for mobile in retail. And what we found out is in travel, the killer app for mobile in travel is actually travel. So it's running through the airport, it's your boarding pass, it's knowing where your gate is. It's all the little bits of information that can make either your trip super anxious and a problem, or can make it super easy. And so I think doing that in mobile made a great deal of sense because that's the device that you're likely to have with you as you're in those moments. And we talk about a number of experiences, and we always had talked about them separately, the in-plane experience, the in-airport experience, and then kind of the digital experience. And what we realized with mobile was it gives us this opportunity to connect all of those experiences, and actually mobile becomes the thread through all of that. So whether you're in the airport or planning a trip or you're at your destination, all these things can be infused with little bits of content, little bits of insight from Delta that enhance your trip and make you think more positively about the Delta brand. And by the way, that creates more and more and more touch points so that we can engage with our customer in the most effective way.
Can you talk, as you get into that, can you talk a little more about the first functionalities that you launched as part of that experience?
We actually we had a debate internally, should we launch commerce or should we launch customer service? And so it wasn't exactly a coin flip, but what we did is we surveyed our customers, and the customer said, the thing we care about most is I want my mobile boarding pass. I want to know where my gate is. I really want these kind of core foundational, functional elements of what it means to travel. And so that's where we started. So we actually built an app, and hopefully a lot of you have downloaded our app. We built an app that was very focused on those moments of anxiety, those moments of panic, those moments where a little bit of information is going to make your trip that much better, and did very, very well with that. And of course, now we've launched in our second version a much richer commerce experience, a much richer, lots of different functionality that aids people as they go through their trips and engage with Delta in lots of different ways. But the first release was very much focused on customer service because we felt like that was the most critical thing to give people in that moment.
It strikes me that when you're describing the Delta experience about helping people when they go through their day, you could have been describing Richelle's video, but just for a different category. And we're talking about utility when people are on the go and helping them have a better experience and extending that relationship. So you have a video about the Delta app as well.
I do. It's not quite as slick as the eBay video, but it does talk a little bit about the key functions that exist on our iPhone platform, which is also on the Android, and then our iPad platform, which is something that, again, we're using to try to extend those touch points that we have with all of our customers.
So maybe we'll roll the video. So how many people here have used a QR code when boarding instead of a boarding pass? Wow.
Hey.
How many people here have deposited a check by taking a picture of a check? Somebody apparently very excited about depositing checks and not going to an ATM. So I want to seize on something, Bob, that you said, which is that you focused on the utility or the CRM part of the relationship with the first thing you built rather than how do we acquire people or bring people back. Can you talk about that decision of why you decided to go with sort of this deepening of the customer relationship?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's two things. One, Delta is a very operational company. Thank goodness. So, it's safe, on time, with bags all the time, right? And that's the thing that we do, and that's the part of the DNA of the organization. And so we felt like just as we moved into mobile, we had to deliver and get our customers to trust us on those elements of travel as well, right? So if you're going to put a digital tool in somebody's hand, don't start with marketing. Start with the ability to deliver on the thing that you're promising every day. And so that was where we started. And like I said, it's grown. People have responded very well, and it's grown crazy aggressively. And we're now on to bigger things and a more comprehensive set of functionality. You saw in the video, everything from seat selection to baggage tracking to booking a flight to checking your flight status, and everything on the iPad app now. You can look at Wikipedia articles about the mountain that you're flying over when you're on the plane. And so continuing to find innovative new ways to give our customers ways to enjoy their experience even more.
Great. Richelle, sort of the same question in a different frame, which is about how do you build for mobile? How do you think about the functionality that you offer? And then related to that, and you can choose to take this obviously separately. How does that relate back to the desktop experience? Because obviously it's one eBay customer.
Yeah, so if you think back about 3 years ago, one of the challenges that we had, and we heard this from customers time and time again, is it's just not easy. The process just isn't easy. And so for that time period, over a 3-year period, we actually started working on kind of that desktop experience and making that easier. But through all the research that we did and the understanding of what it's going to take, it really helped us on the mobile side because it allowed us to actually create very, very streamlined applications that allowed customers to get to the things that they want. So if you're a seller and you're selling on our platform, now all you need to do is take your phone, take a picture of the item that you want to sell, write your description, upload your picture, and it's done. And it's really just a matter of minutes versus a process that on the desktop was taking so much longer. So then you start to think about how customers are really using the experience. And what's interesting is that they're flipping between the desktop and between their mobile device or their tablet. And so they might start the process one place and finish it someplace else. And so we really do have to think about that end-to-end experience and not really just think about whether it's just desktop or just mobile.
So if I can sort of generalize for the other brands in the room, I'm hearing a holistic, working backwards, a holistic view of the customer.
That's right.
I'm hearing keep it simple and try to identify what they need on the go, and then prioritize some of the features that you think people are specifically going to need in that early adopter mode. And presumably that applies to all of your brands differently, but I think that works and is very consistent with what we see at Google. I want to talk now about measurement, and I'll open this up to either of you that feels eager on the question. How do you measure all of this? Obviously, there's installs of apps, there's engagement, there's actual actions that people take when they check in.
I think you just took my answer.
All right, sorry. Rewind 15 seconds. How do you measure all of this?
I mean, I think, well, there's engagement, there's the number of download of apps. No, I mean, I do think those are important measures. You know, we have 7 million downloads. It's not quite where you are, but what we find is that it overlaps very closely with some of our highest value customers. So the people who need our app the most, we're putting it in their hands and they're actually using it. So that's clearly one of the measures we use. We also are measuring engagement, what people are doing on the apps. I think the bigger one and the one that's a little bit harder to quantify but very important is that within our executive compensation scheme is Net Promoter Score, which you might not expect from an old line airline, but Net Promoter Score is something that we measure very carefully domestically, internationally, and we look for the components of digital that are contributing to that score. So we're trying to make sure that everything that we're doing is not just about cool, innovative, but in fact it is enhancing the customer experience in a way that's measurable through something that is a macro measure, as well as looking at things like social sentiment and downloads and the growth of the number of interactions. You know, my favorite stat on that one, by the way, is that 15% on average of people domestically check in on a mobile app every day, which is 250,000 check-ins a day. And so 15 was about 0 a year and a half ago. And so we're expecting that to move to the point where you kind of don't need those kiosks in the airports anymore. And you maybe don't need to check in online because everybody's got it right on their mobile phone.
So I want to come back to the ripple effects through the organization in a minute. But Richelle, can you talk a little about what eBay's tracking and managing to?
Yeah, so for those of you who know eBay, you know that it's a highly analytical culture. We measure everything. And so making sure that we're measuring things effectively is pretty key. We do a significant amount of test and control just to make sure that we're getting to that incrementality. But we're looking at the same things. We're looking at engagement. We want to understand kind of the purchase. We want to get to what we call GMB, or gross merchandise bought. Like understanding that volume is really very key. Net Promoter Score is also critical for us. We look at it from a buyer perspective as well as from a seller perspective, because we need to ensure that we're creating those experiences end to end. And what's also interesting, and some of you may be this exact person, is we have buyers who sell. And so your buying experience and your selling experience might be very different. And so what we're trying to do is ensure that you're experiencing the best experience you can, no matter who you are versus which experience or lane that you started in.
Is it fair to say, or I'll make it as a statement and you can disagree, but I think we were in a phase for a long time where people were doing mobile, as you said, to do kind of cool functionality for their customers and to do things because a lot of their customers were on mobile phones. But now I think we're in a phase where you not only have to be in mobile, you have to understand what your return on investment is, what you're getting, and establishing these metrics.
That's exactly right, yes.
Was there a process by which you experimented to arrive at things you manage to now?
Yeah, there's a lot of experimentation that we're doing. I mean, it's a big test and learn culture, and so a lot of what we do is kind of pilot a bunch of things and then we scale them pretty quickly. For instance, we did a test in mobile display to really understand, how mobile display was actually driving incrementality for us. We did an on-off test, literally on in part of the population, off in the other part of the population. We saw the results, and then we scaled it as quickly as we could.
And we do some longer scale tests like that. I mean, some of the stuff that you see in our iPad app are just prototypes of things that we think ultimately could be on the site or ultimately will be in mobile. And so testing them out and seeing customer reaction in an environment that maybe isn't as difficult to develop, allows us to figure out what people like, what people want. We've got all the research around the functions and things that people use the most. But these are things that we think are emerging and give an opportunity for us to try things out and then put them on a different platform if it makes sense.
For what it's worth, just for everybody here, is a big part of the advice that Google gives our customers is something you're hearing from both of them, which is be in, if you're familiar with it, sort of a rapid iteration mode. Yeah. Don't do long development cycles. Totally. Look at the data in the way that Bob's talking about so that you can iterate and realize that people want to use a particular functionality or another and be in that agile development stance. Yep. Yeah. Let me pivot then for a minute. You're looking at this data. You've launched new functionality. You're engaging your customers in new ways. I want to roll this back, and Richelle, start with you. Talk about what this has meant for your organization, because a lot of the hallway conversations I've had this week are about, okay, I'm doing mobile in the marketing organization, but it turns out that it impacts so much more. Yeah. Can you talk about that at eBay?
Sure. So for our organization, it really is about the whole experience, which includes the site as well as all the other aspects of it. So when you think about mobile first, everyone in the organization has to think the same way. It can't really just be a marketing assignment or just the marketing team because it will all fall apart. And so we have teams of people who have really started to think about how that end-to-end experience plays to life. And what we did starting out of the marketing team is actually map out the customer decision journey to understand the different places where the customer starts and ends so that we can actually understand how mobile plays into that along the way, and then how other influences like how they think about email or how they think about social and all the other things actually play into it, because where they don't always start in the same place, and we know that. And
so that's a good point, is that it's not just, okay, here's my site or my app. It's right. Thinking about when and where people open emails and how that relates to one common whole, as well as the rest of your touch points with that customer. Yeah. That's pretty complicated.
Yeah.
Bob?
Well, I just think you make it sound so easy to operate organizational change even within your own organization, and I think
I'm asking the question.
Yeah, fair enough. We had that challenge within our own team, and we had to transition ourselves from thinking like project managers to thinking like product owners. Mm-hmm. We had to transition ourselves to building roadmaps around what that key customer functionality was going to be over time. And then we had to make sure that we got to that agile development approach, and we did it in-house and we did it with third parties to make sure that we really were getting that kind of ongoing cycling that you need to just make that work. But the other thing is we realized that there were all these downstream impacts. We conceived of this feature called the baggage tracker. I don't know if you guys have ever used this, but you can scan your bag tag and it'll tell you where your bag is. But the problem was that when we went to the teams in the airport that did that for a living, they said, well, we don't scan that much, just enough to make sure that the bag doesn't get lost. And what we scan is a code that is unintelligible to humans. It's 23496 or whatever it is. And we said, well, hey, we have this idea. Could you scan more? And could you turn all those codes into something that somebody can understand? And so now we actually scan almost twice as many times as we did before. And it says plain side scan, which is the thing, by the way, that if it says plain side scan, it means that your bag is on the plane. Or it says what carousel, or it says what airport you've checked in at. And that insight for our customers was great, but in order to do that, we had to convince a pretty old line fundamental part of our organization to do something pretty radically different. And that has worked, and that has been now prototype for other parts of the organization that we're going to ask to do other things to support this kind of digital customer experience.
I think what's amazing about that example is the idea that I think everybody here can appreciate a bag tracker, that it just makes sense on mobile, and it deepens and improves my relationship with Delta. But the fundamental change all the way back through an organization that had systems in place, that had people, I would love to have been in the room the first time somebody went into the head of baggage handling and said, hey, we need you to implement a new system so that we can surface this. Yeah. And so it's not just a marketing conversation, it's all throughout the organization. We talk a lot about, and I had a conversation earlier today about the impact on physical retail stores of what you do and the engagement that you have with somebody on a mobile phone, because people are moving in and out of stores. So at the risk of pushing you out on a limb, can you talk a little bit about the idea of showrooming from a consumer behavior standpoint and how you think about that?
Yeah, so when you talk about local, so you guys may know that we actually launched a local service last year, which is all about, it's called eBay Now, and it's a delivery service that gets you the product that you want in an hour. And the reason we did this is because we know that a significant amount of shopping actually happens within 70% of your home. And so, I mean, 70% of the time it happens about 15 miles from your home. And so we wanted to make sure that we got customers to the things that they needed. And so understanding that behavior, the fact that people are in the store, they look for something, they go back home, they do some research, they end up buying it online. We needed to make sure that we were playing in that arena as well. And so what we did is we launched a service called eBay Now, which is that delivery service, but also local as just a proof point of being able to actually buy something online and picking up in store. So we're creating all of these different mechanisms to allow you to actually get to that product, either having it delivered to you or allowing you to go get it. But frankly, it's all about ensuring that customers have the convenience that they need and at any aspect of the journey.
And one of the amazing things about it is that you have now done such an amazing job with branding that you have that relationship with the consumer in the store. You have that relationship with the consumer in the park when they see the other family's toy that they really like, and eBay is with them.
Well, and for you guys that travel, you know that you show up at your hotel and you don't have a power cord. What do? You know, in this instance, if right now, if you're in New York City, you can actually, you download that app, you call it up, Best Buy will send a courier to Best Buy to pick up the power cord for you, and they actually will knock on your hotel room door, right? You don't have to be at home. That's the convenience of it all. You can actually be in the park, to the reference you made, or in the coffee shop, wherever it is. And so it really is about helping with that convenience.
So two more questions, and then we're going to be out of time. So to that effect, because it's not just about the opportunity to engage with customers because we're connected, I think consumer expectations have changed. Right. So my guess is that having a boarding pass has now become sort of table stakes in the airlines business. So can you talk about how to keep up with the expectations, how you monitor competition or out of category as you think about the changing and ever accelerating expectations of the consumer? And Bob, start with you.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's one thing we absolutely aggressively do is we're not looking at our own category only. We're looking at some of the best brands in the world and some of the best apps in the world. And we really see ourselves, Delta's tagline is keep climbing, which is we're not where we were, but we've got a long way to go. And so we very much are humble and in this mode of trying to continue to make improvements. And so, our challenge is what are those next key functionalities and features that are going to really drive people to say, okay, Delta's different. Delta's enhancing my experience in a way that is completely not what I expected from that brand. And so we do that by again, a lot of customer focus groups. We do it through testing and making sure that things that are on one channel actually make it to the other channel. And then we're actually looking at, it seems not that strange. We're looking at revenue. But revenue is a relatively new thing for us in mobile, right? We do an amazing business online. We don't do that much in mobile, and so as we start to see things picking up, those are the opportunities that we go after more aggressively.
You feed it.
And honestly, we're working our way down to the bottom of the barrel too. I mean, things that were table stakes, on the site a long time ago, now are table stakes on mobile. So my favorite example is Infinite Arms or special service request. You can request a special service meal, a vegetarian meal, on mobile 24 hours before your flight, because that's the expectation that customers have when they engage with your brand. So we got to go find those things that are the new expectations, and we're looking everywhere to try to do that.
So last word to you, Richelle. We're all chasing the consumer. How do you stay current? How do you stay in front of it?
So I spend a lot of time just understanding the consumer and their behavior. So it's very easy to be caught up in the day and kind of the short term, but we also spend a lot of time looking at the future and partnering with our agencies, as well as doing a lot of outside in, getting kind of just some of the best minds out there, having sessions that are not about today, but all about the future, and starting to map out what the next 3 years looks like and what are those channels that are going to matter and where's the customer going to be. That's a big part of what we do every day.
So those of you that know me know that this is my passion. What we're talking about here, which is about how this change in consumer behavior changed the relationship with brands. I think mobility and mobile connectivity is disruptive enough that it is an opportunity to win and a risk of losing. I'm lucky to be joined by two companies that get it and have gotten it right. Please join me in thanking eBay and Richelle and Bob and Delta.